When it comes to alternative handlebars, there are several out there that are basically legendary. Some, like the Redshift kitchen sink, are fairly new to the market, while others, including the Jones Loop and the Surly Moloko, have been around for years. A bar that fits into that latter category, and one which I had never used until recently, is the Velo Orange Crazy Bar. This bar has been around for about a decade, with some significant changes a few years ago, bringing us the V2. I've used these bars on my Jones LWB for a couple months, and in this video, I'm going to tell you what I think of them. In general, alt bars are trying to maximize comfort while maintaining or even increasing capability. Drop bars tend to offer a lot of comfort through multiple hand positions, but aren't the best when it comes to technical terrain that requires a lot of control. Flat bars, on the other hand, are great at the techie stuff, but not quite as comfortable as a drop bar due to only having a single hand position. In many ways, alternative handlebars are trying to combine the two and get the best of both worlds. I've used a lot of them over the years, and while many of them do this decently well, the Crazy Bars might just be the best at it. The second version of this bar was released at the end of 2021 and had some pretty significant changes. The original bar was 666 millimeters wide, with a 45-degree sweep and some extra long bull horns spaced 400 millimeters apart. This gave a somewhat wide, very natural hand position at the rear, while the front was meant to mimic the hood's position on standard drop bars. While I never rode them, my hunch is that this original version was much better at paved and dirt roads than it was at truly technical riding. It's not that there's anything inherently wrong with that, but for a do-it-all bar, I tend to want a better balance between road and trail capability. Based on the direction that Velo Orange took the V2, I think they may have felt the same. This second version saw over 100 millimeters added to the total width, 10 degrees less sweep, 40 millimeters of rise, and shorter horns that are set farther apart. All of that together creates a bar with dimensions that are more in line with the trends of both the drop and flat bars of today. Like the V1, it's still made from 6061 heat-treated aluminum, and it comes in at 532 grams. They also retained the size difference between the main bar and the horns, which allows for mountain bike components on the main portion and bar ends and inverse levers on the horns. It's a feature that probably won't be used by the majority of riders, but it speaks to the versatility Velo Orange wanted this bar to have. As I mentioned, alternative bars have a pretty big focus on comfort, which often comes in the form of multiple hand positions. The Crazy Bars have two primary hand positions, on the horns and at the back in the grips. The goal of the horns is to mimic where your hands would be on the hoods of a normal drop bar. I haven't shown drop bars much love in the past, but I actually did a lot of road riding in my college days, and the hoods are an incredibly comfortable position to be in. It puts your arms in a really neutral position, close to shoulder width apart, and has a nice spot to sort of hook your hand onto from the rise of the lever. The horns on the Crazy Bar do a pretty good job of this from their 42 centimeters of spacing and a slight upward bend toward the front. It's not 100% matched to the hoods, especially since you don't have immediate access to the brake and shifters, but I found it to feel natural and comfortable overall. When I was on longer rides or on a tamer stretch of road, it was nice to have another spot to put my hands to relieve those little muscles we don't often think about, but we definitely feel. The primary or back position on the main bar was also a pretty comfortable spot due to the 35 degrees of sweep. That might sound like a crazy amount, no pun intended, but a host of alt bars, including the originals of this bar, take it all the way to 45. I get along with that angle just fine, but there are many people who find that to be too much for their hands and wrists, or even from a capability standpoint. 35 degrees is still a lot, but having ridden both, there's a really noticeable difference between the two in terms of alternativeness. The only issue I had with this position was surprisingly from the width, which at 780 is at the widest end of what I run on my own mountain bikes. It's not that it was even an issue really, I just had a moment here or there where I remember thinking, man, I wish these were a little narrower. Don't get me wrong though, the width was super nice on single track and in sections where control was the main focus, but I have fairly broad shoulders and long arms, so I can't help but think that smaller riders are going to feel this even more. The grip section is pretty long at 205 millimeters, so you can cut them down if that's too much of a problem, but keep in mind that will also slightly increase the reach due to that back sweep. One other thing that really upped the comfort level of this bar is the rise. 40 millimeters doesn't sound like it'd make much of a difference, but ride this back to back with something like the Surly Moloko, which has no rise, and you'll be shocked at how different your body position feels. I don't know if it's due to age, my dad bod, or just a change in riding style, but I'm becoming more and more of a fan of a tall stack and more upright riding position, so I'm super glad to see it on these bars. The only drawback of the rise is there isn't a great hand position or spot to mount things in between the horns, but I think it's well worth it. A comfortable ride is a great thing, but the other characteristic that it has to be balanced with is capability. It seems a little odd to bring up when we're talking just about handlebars and not a whole bike, but as 2 out of 5 touch points on your bike, your bars play a huge role in how it feels overall. Going back to the road versus mountain bike bars point, road style drop bars do an excellent job of increasing your aerodynamics. Mountain bike flat bars give you a great hand and body position for stability and control at high speeds or on technical obstacles. The Crazy Bars give you that control with the nice and wide main grips position, but the horns also provide a more forward and tucked in position to keep your body from being too much of a sail. The sweep of the back position may feel a little unnatural at first if you're used to typical flat bars, but once you get used to it, it feels really normal and makes techie stuff feel more or less the same as something with less back sweep. In fact, if you look at where your hands end up in relation to the top cap, you're pretty much in the exact same spot, but with your hands turned at more of an angle. Moving to the horns, I found they do a great job at making life a little easier when things get windy, which happens a lot where I am, or if you're heading into a long, easy section where you want to put some miles down fast. You end up in a significantly more aerodynamic position than on the back, just by having your arms and shoulders tucked in and your hands a little farther forward. It's not as aerodynamic as being in the drops, but if you're running these bars, you're probably not looking for that much of an aero position anyway. I don't think I'd ever want to put bar ends up front, it's just not really my thing, but I could see inverse brake levers being super nice up here, especially if you had them paired in line with normal levers on the main bar. I got pretty comfortable on the horns, even on slightly bumpy and curvy dirt roads, but I always had to pull my hands back to the brake levers if it tipped downhill and I wanted more control over my speed. I also think going from 400 to 420 millimeters of spacing was a really smart move. Not only does it keep your hands a little wider for more stability and control, it also provides a wider spot for mounting a bag up front. I don't bike pack or anything, but I have heard that the width between the shifters can be one of the more annoying things about drop bars and handlebar bags. When I first spoke with Velo Orange about getting these bars in for a review, I knew I was probably going to like them. On paper, they look to be a great combination of flat and drop bars, and after using them for a bit, that's exactly how they ride. They look really simple at first glance, but there are a lot of little choices made in the design that set them apart in the ever-expanding alternative handlebar market. So if you're looking to blend the comfort of a drop bar with the capability of a flat bar, the Crazy Bars are probably for you. Thanks again to Velo Orange for sending these bars out for review. If there's any questions I didn't answer in this video, leave a comment down below, or you can actually just reach out to them about it. They also sent their utility bar and rack, which I've been using on an e-bike, so look for that review coming soon. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.